In this video, we're going to cover the grid. Now, the grid is a nice combination of a row and a column. You can see here, really good example. You have rows, you have columns, and you can define how many rows and columns you have, although there are a couple little caveats you have to be aware of. Here, we just have the default settings, so it's just going to keep going and going as much as it thinks it needs to. Let's go ahead and take a look. We'll say grid. And of course we have MyShape from our previous videos. In case you've skipped the last few videos, MyShape is a custom component which is a rectangle, and we have a mouse area so we can drag it around those little objects, and if we click them it goes up the Z stack. Alright, let's go back here and we're going to say anchors. Let's go ahead and drop an anchor center in parent, and let's make a few MyShapes here. These could be rectangles. We don't necessarily have to do MyShape. We could do something like this. But then we, of course, have to do like a width. So we could do something like that if we really wanted to. We can also set the spacing. Let's go ahead and set that to 5. And let's see what that looks like. Nice and neat. Now the reason why we're using the MyShape is we can actually drag that and move it around and move it up the Z stack, where rectangle is just static. It's not going to do anything. So let's get rid of that guy. And let's just drop a bunch of these on here. Just picking some random colors. I'm going to say black. Running out of color names here. Gray. Teal. Just going to add a few more. Let's see what this looks like. All right, pretty much where we were, and of course we can drag these and move them around and move them up and around the Z stack. How do we really define what this looks like? Under the hood, there's rows, which is currently at -1, and columns, which is currently at -1. Let's demonstrate that. See, it looks exactly the same. If we were to set this to, say, 1 row, 1 column, we have exactly 1 MyShape, or do we? We can actually move these around, and you can see what's happening here is it's just stacking them one on top of the other. And let's do that again. Let's save and run, and you can see, remember, this is like looking down at your desk, so the last thing you put on the desk is going to be on top. So going from the bottom up, it should be orange, brown, teal, gray, black. I mean, you can see it's blue, green. The next one's going to be yellow, then red. Ta-da! So that's exactly what's happening here. It is just basically stacking them one on top of the other. Let's modify this a little bit. We want to have 2 rows. Now we have 2 rows with 1 column. Going from the bottom, we have orange, brown, or do we? Notice how it's suddenly yellow. So we have orange and yellow. Let's see what this top one's got here. There's brown and teal. So let's move this one, yellow. What's going on there is it's trying to figure out what order you want. And this is where the grid can get a little bit frustrating. And there are some more advanced techniques, but basically you're going to have to play around and figure out what you want. So if I say 3 by 3, it orders it in a 3 by 3, and it tries its best to figure out what we're trying to do here. So it starts, suddenly you notice it's not going from the bottom first, it's going from the first to the last. So it's saying red, yellow, green, blue, on and on and on, and then it tries to go from the top down. But Z order wise, if we look at orange here, this is on the top. I tried to say it with a Z. This is on the top. Anyways, so that's the Z order stacking. This will be first, second, third, fourth, all the way down to the last one, so it's on top. And let's do 2 columns. Now we're going to have clipping. And when I say clipping, I'm not talking true clipping in the sense that, hey, it's missing off the screen. I mean, it's stacked on top of each other. So we have orange, and ta-da, there's our hidden item right there. I'm just going to kind of offset that a bit, but there's no hidden item here. So let's just move these down. Orange, there was the brown, there was the teal. So what's going on here is it starts here, and then it moves to the left, and then when it hits its limit, it drops down. It hits its limit, drops down, and then starts over again. That's kind of how you can predict its pattern a little bit. Basically, it always starts at 0, 0, and it will just increment once it hits its hard limit, which is defined by your rows and columns, bumps down, starts over. Whew. Pretty easy to understand, but once you start using it, especially if you're dynamically generating objects, you're going to see some weirdness like that, where you'll run your application and you go, now, wait a minute, where's red? And it's actually just buried